Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really jumping into the deep end with a fascinating stack of sources. We're exploring the intricate world of Sufi metaphysics, looking particularly through the lens of, well, one of its giants, Ibn Arabi, and his brilliant commentators.
That's right. We've got glossaries, philosophical commentaries, even a thesis outline acting almost like a guide.
Exactly, a guide to this incredibly rich universe of discourse. Our mission today is really to cut through some of the complexity, to pull out the most important nuggets, giving you a shortcut, hopefully, to being really well informed about these ideas connecting the seen and the unseen.
Indeed. And what's so striking is how structured this system is.
Yeah.
It's a framework for understanding reality itself, from God's nature right down to the inner workings of the human spirit. It's really about seeing the connections, how everything fits together.
Okay, let's dive in then. Right at the absolute core of Sufi thought, especially for Ibn Arabi, is this concept of divine unity, tawhid. And related to that, the oneness of being, wadat al-wujud. Now, we hear that phrase a lot, but what does it actually mean? That all existence is one reality. Does that just mean everything is God?
That's the crucial point, isn't it? It's nuance. Oneness here, tawhid, refers to contemplating the single divine essence, the source from which all the divine names, all the attributes originate. So even though God has countless qualities, the essence itself is absolutely one, undivided.
Yep. Okay.
So Wadat al-Wujud asserts that God is the only true reality, the only necessary existence. Everything else, creation,
Yes.
his manifestation, his self-disclosure.
Like a reflector.
Exactly, like a reflection. Created things are described as having no independent being in themselves. They're an ontological nothingness, you could say, given this fleeting veil of reality only by God's creative command. It's quite radical. The Quran points to this. Everything perishes except his face. It emphasizes that contingency, our existence, is temporary, dependent.
Right, that really puts things in perspective. So if everything is ultimately this one reality manifesting, how does that singularity, that divine essence, unfold into the sheer variety of the world? How do we get from one to, well, everything?
Good question. This happens through what the texts call tajalli, divine self-manifestation.
Tajalli, okay.
Think of the beautiful names of God, and the sources give us just a glimpse, mentioning names like the universal, the independent, the benefactor, the preventer, the light, the guide, the creative, the enduring.
A huge spectrum.
A vast spectrum. These names are essentially the vocabulary of existence. They are how the one divine essence expresses itself, how it unfolds into all the diverse forms we see. Even scripture hints at this. You see names paired together like all-forgiving, all-merciful, al-Ghafur al-Rahma, or mighty wise, al-Aziz al-Hakim. It shows how these divine qualities work together in tandem to shape reality.
So within this vast tapestry, this unfolding, what does this mean for us, for humanity? What's our role?
Humanity holds a profound position. The Prophet Muhammad is often called the perfect man, al-Insan al-Kamil. Al-Insan al-Kamil, yes, or the all-comprehensive al-Jami. His reality is seen as the majma, the locus of convergence, the place where all the divine names and qualities come together in their most perfect, balanced form.
Like a perfect synthesis.
Exactly. He embodies the entire spectrum. He becomes the compendium of names, al-Jami al-Azma. And this connects to the idea of the seal of prophethood, Qadam. It means Muhammad didn't just close the door on legislative prophecy in time, but his spiritual reality remains present, from the beginning to the end, illuminating all the saints who come after.
Okay, that's a huge concept. Now, if everything we see is a manifestation of these divine ideas, these names, where do these ideas actually reside before they become manifest? Where's the blueprint?
Right. This takes us to what's called the world of archetypes, or alam alan al-tabita.
The fixed architect.
Precisely. It's described as a pre-cosmic plane. Think of it as timeless ideas existing eternally within divine knowledge. Everything that ever exists or will exist is already there as a fixed archetype, a potentiality. So creation, in this view, isn't pulling something totally new out of a void. It's more like these eternal archetypes are being given external existence, manifested.
So it's like the divine thought becoming tangible.
You could say that. It's sometimes considered the highest unseen level, maybe even Jabarut. It means every single event in the cosmos is, in essence, the realization of an eternal divine idea. It links our time-bound world with eternity.
That is, yeah, that's a mind-bending idea. And does this layering of meaning extend to things we take for granted, like, say, physical space, our sense of direction?
Oh, absolutely. The sources show Ibn Arabi imbues even the cardinal directions with deep metaphysical meaning.
Really? How so?
Well, think of the east, Mashriq, where the sun rises. It symbolizes illumination, spiritual birth, new beginnings.
Makes sense.
Then the west, Maghrib, symbolizes completion, setting, perhaps even a kind of spiritual death or transcendence. Above points towards the spiritual, below towards the material.
And the center.
The center is often represents the pole, the spiritual heart of the world. Think of the Kaaba. So even just orienting yourself physically can become a contemplative act. Space itself has this symbolic structure.
Wow. Okay, so given this incredibly layered reality, these hidden meanings, how does a seeker actually gain access to these truths? It can't just be reading about it, right?
No, exactly. It's about direct perception, direct knowing. And this brings us to Kash, unveiling. It's described literally as the removal of veils, the veils of ignorance, limitation from the heart, allowing the heart's own eye, the basira, the inward sight, to perceive reality directly. When it's authentic, Kashf is a genuine perception of spiritual truths. It yields a kind of knowledge you just can't get through reason alone, understanding God's unseen aspects, perhaps, or the inner states of others.
But how do you know it's authentic? Couldn't it just be imagination?
That's the crucial point, and Ibn Arabi is very strong on this. True Kash must be consistent with Ekuka, ultimate reality as revealed, and with Sharia, the divine law. That's the safeguard.
Okay, so it needs to be grounded.
Absolutely. He warns that unveilings have to be measured against Scripture, against the guidance of realized teachers, precisely to avoid illusions. Takilat. There's a beautiful hadith as sources mention. Beware the insight of the believer, for he sees by the light of God.
That's Kash.
That's Kash in action. But it's a light that illuminates within the bounds of revelation.
So if someone is on this path, seeking this unveiling, this inner development, does Sufism map it out? Are there like stages or steps?
Yes, there's a well-defined framework. Seekers are described as passing through distinct stations, maqam, and being visited by states, ayul.
Okay, stations and states, what's the difference?
The key difference is agency, you could say. Awal states are seen as divine gifts, influxes that strike the heart suddenly without the seeker's deliberation. You don't earn them, they arrive.
Like moments of grace.
Perhaps, yes. Whereas maqamat, stations, are ranks the seeker attains through conscious effort. Through struggle, practice, vigilance, they are achievements earned.
Got it. Earned versus given.
Exactly. And this whole framework embeds the practical journey of the Sufi within this rigorous metaphysical understanding. Along the way, you might encounter something called the halt, a necessary pause between stations, a time to consolidate, fulfill obligations, prepare for the next step.
A spiritual plateau, almost.
Sort of. And the whole journey, if undertaken sincerely, is called an authentic undertaking. Its intention is purely to find truth.
Are there specific practices mentioned for this inner development? You mentioned the heart's clarity. What about something like dreams?
Yes, definitely. The sources really emphasize the link between inner state and perception, especially in dreams. The clearer your heart, the purer your intention and actions, the more truthful and meaningful your dreams become.
So practices like?
Well, things like cultivating honesty, being mindful of diet, constant remembrance of God, dhikra, sending blessings on the Prophet, especially before sleep. These are all encouraged to foster true dreams and visions.
And the opposite is also true.
Yes. If the imagination is, as the text might say, polluted, where the ego is dominant, dreams tend to become confusing reflections of that inner turmoil. They call them adgath lum, muddled dreams.
Muddled dreams.
Even the forms that appear in these imaginal realms, whether in dreams or visions, be they saints, angels, animals, landscapes, these are called O4 forms. And these other carry many meanings. These visions are seen as an incoming thought or an event arriving in the heart directly from the unseen world, offering coded insights.
It sounds like there's such a strong focus on the inner, the mystical path. One might wonder, does this lead away from, the standard outward religious practices?
That's a really important question and a common misconception. The sources, especially commentators like Abd al-Wahhab al-Sharani, are very explicit. Outward adherence to the Sharia, the divine law, is absolutely mandatory. It's the foundation, even for the greatest saints.
So it's not either.
Not at all. Ibn Arabi's teachings, when understood correctly, actually reinforce orthodox practice. The inner vision doesn't cancel the outer form. It fulfills it, perfects it. It brings the heart into alignment with the practice. Remember the teaching. God looks not at your forms, but at your hearts.
While those hearts are engaged in the forms he reveals.
Precisely. It's about integrating inner sincerity with outward action.
That makes sense. So how do these really deep sometimes quite abstract Sufi insights connect back to the foundational texts, the Qur'an, the ḥadīth? How do they bridge that gap?
This is where mystical interpretation or hermeneutics comes in. You see it brilliantly in commentators like ʿAbd, al-Razzāq, al-Kāshānī, and his tafsir, his commentary on the Quran. He meticulously shows how specific verses and hadith relate directly to these complex Sufi concepts. For instance, his commentary on the verse, "He taught Adam all the names."
Which we talked about earlier.
Exactly. He links those names directly to the immutable essences, the Aeon Tabita, those eternal archetypes. This process shows how spiritual perception can uncover layers of meaning within revelation itself. It grounds the mystical insights firmly in Scripture, often through symbolic rather than purely literal interpretation.
Okay. And what about philosophy? The world of rational thought. How does Sufism, particularly this Akbarian stream, interact with that?
Well, there was significant engagement. Thinkers like Dāwūd al-Qayyu were key figures here. He made a real effort to present Sufi metaphysics using the philosophical language of his day.
So using terms like
Quiddity, the whatness of something, substance, accident. He engaged directly with the philosophical toolkit. This wasn't just translation. It showed the coherence of Sufi ideas within that intellectual framework. And this really helped Ibn Arabi's ideas gain wider acceptance in mainstream Islamic thought. It created a kind of cross-pollination. Over time, you see the lines blurring between the Gnostic Arif, the philosopher, philosophe, and the theologian, mutakallim.
Interesting. And does this nuanced approach, this bridging of worlds, extend to really big questions like the afterlife? What happens after death, the body, seeing God?
Yes, absolutely. Ibn Arabi's doctrine on the imaginal body, the jism midral, and the vision of God, al-Laq, in the hereafter, is a fascinating example of this bridging. Well, he fully affirms, along with theologians, that the blessed will see God in paradise. It's real, undeniable. But aligning more with the sages, he argues it's not with physical eyes because God is beyond form and location.
So how is God seen then?
In the hereafter, in that intermediate realm called the Barzakh, divine realities manifest themselves in vivid, meaningful, imaginal forms. Think of incredibly potent symbols or theophanies perceived by the heart's inner vision, the basira.
Like a profound visionary experience.
Exactly. He points to the prophet's night ascent, the Miraj, as the prime example. The prophet saw paradise, hell, the throne. These were theophanies, meanings taking form within that imaginal world. So the vision is this. Resurrection involved the whole person, body, and spirit, but the body is of this subtle, imaginal substance. And the vision of God happens through God revealing himself within the heart's capacity to perceive him, not as some colored shape out there in physical space.
Wow. That is a profoundly different way of thinking about it. What a deep dive this has been. We've journeyed through these incredible concepts, the oneness of existence, divine manifestation, those archetypes, spiritual geography, the whole path of unveiling, and seeing how it all connects. Scripture, philosophy, even practical things like spiritual training and dream interpretation. It's incredibly coherent when you see the links.
It really is. And that leads perhaps to a final thought for you, the listener. How does understanding these Sufi concepts, this framework that bridges the visible and invisible, maybe challenge or deepen your own everyday perception of reality, of knowledge itself? What stands out most to you from this attempt to grasp the oneness within the multiplicity all around us?
Something to ponder. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and join us next time for another deep dive.